Kim and I are comfortably seated and ready for a new episode of Pursue Podcast. Today we're finally diving into a sport we're yet to talk about on this podcast. Track and field is one of the biggest sports in the college arena, and with us to tell her story, we have a North Park University alum, Elise Grong Ruud. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's about time we get a sprinter on one of Norway's fastest sprinters, and to talk about, when I think about track and field, I'm always thinking US. That is, they're so good, they're so fast, they're so strong, they can jump so high. I mean, it's a natural move for others to go there and develop. And you did the move.
Yes, indeed I did. I started there in 2017, I believe, yeah. And the level of track and field there is very, very wide. You have the athletes that go to the Olympics too as well, in the Division 1 and Division 2, and then you have Division 3, where I was at North Park University. You have so many people competing, and it's a lot of fun compared to back here in Norway. Track and field is not the biggest sport, so it's very different.
Yeah, because you do have the whole range there. You mentioned the different divisions, and there's, you have Division 1, you have Division 2, you have Division 3, you have NAIA, you have junior college, the 2-year schools, and it's just an incredible amount of athletes and high-end athletes in all the divisions. We looked at some stats, and I don't remember them off by heart, but if a certain school was competing in the Olympics, they would place high up on the nation's count on medals if that school was a nation. It's just at the highest level, this is the way to go, and probably that also filters down then to others that they don't have ambitions to become an Olympian, but you can still compete and get much better by doing it. What was your reasoning, Elise, for trying this adventure?
So if I go back to after high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so I decided I wanted to move to Australia or US. So first, I moved to Australia to try different jobs. I wasn't motivated to start studying yet, and I ended up living there for 9-10 months. And in the end of that journey, I really wanted to go to the US because I had a couple of friends being student athletes doing track and field, and I asked them, like, hey, can you tell me about being a student athlete? And they told me everything about it, and that's when I really got tempted. I was motivated to go back again. And so that's when it started. So I contacted CSUSA. I got in contact with Marcus. He was my consultant, and he did his master degree in business at North Park University. And he told me all about North Park. And before I went there, I didn't had, so the process was very quick. I didn't have a lot of months until I had to leave because I really wanted to start in January. So in the fall, I was trying to find schools, and I did get 2 schools, one in Pennsylvania and then North Park, that I could go to. And when Marcus told me about North Park, I decided to go there. Because he talked me about it's a really good school. They have track, and Chicago is the third biggest city in the US, so why not?
Yeah, well, I've been on the North Park campus, and it's in Chicago. It's a really fun place to be. It's very different from coming from small Scandinavia, or there's some bigger cities in the US, but Chicago is just a massive city. But it's interesting that and I think a lot of the student athletes that we work with, they are a little bit unsure, after graduation from high school, what do you want to do? Some they might have started this process and known for a long time that they wanted to do it, and then just go, they graduate high school in, let's say, June, and then immediately start in the US in August for this fall semester. Others, Truls did this. He did a gap year. You did a gap year, a very different gap year maybe than to many. You actually traveled half around the world to Australia and got jobs and experience, worked on your English, that helped, and then you were ready to study. Do you think that that year in Australia was that, you started exploring the world then, and that just gave you more of a, yes, I have to try another part of the world to see it and experience it?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. I was also training, but I wasn't competing in track and field, but I really wanted to go back to it, and seeing a different kind of culture in a new country, living where nobody knows you. I wanted to do it again, and I wasn't ready to move back to Norway, so that's why I decided to go to the US, because it's so big, right? You have so many opportunities.
Exactly. And beforehand, you spoke with Marcus and you started the process. Ideally you have a bit longer than you did. It was more of a bit more rushed process. That is still possible to do, but the more time we have to help, the more spots there are, the more scholarships are available, and you can spread out the administrative process. That is also a very big part of going over a longer period of time. So that's there's so many scenarios, and we've seen them all. But generally, a bit more time than you had would have been good. But I mean, here it turned out to be a very good move for you to go to Chicago. But how did you find that process of going to the States? How difficult was that, or was it something that you didn't expect when you actually did it?
Well, first I didn't expect it to be so much paperwork. And, as you said, I wouldn't recommend anyone to rush through the process when you're going to US, because it's a very big move. But I managed to do well. I have 3 amazing years, except the first week was very, very different, because I have a little bit of culture shock. So when I arrived, for example, there was a lot of information. It's a lot of rules. You're living in a dorm, and they have certain rules you're going to follow. And then at school, we had, for example, a class called Bible study. You had to read the whole Bible, 2,000 pages in English, and you haven't read a single page before. It's a lot to take in. It can get really overwhelming. And the practices was very hard, because I wasn't in my best shape. So we had some 300, 400s running, all out. And I remember I only did 2 of them, and then my legs started to die. And it's your first practice, and you really want to impress the coaches. And I just had to blame it that, I'm so jet lagged, and I'm getting sick, because you don't want to say that you're out of shape, because it's season and you're going to impress. So everything was very overwhelming. And in the dorm, we have a kitchen downstairs. And I asked them if they have any equipment to make dinner, for example, because it's important when you work out a lot, you have to eat a lot, right? And I asked this girl, and I said, yeah, where do you keep it, all the kitchen stuff? And then she told me, nah, we don't make dinner in America. We just put it in a microwave. And then I was just thinking why, what do I do now? So everything happened in a week.
Where can I buy a microwave? Was your next question, then I take it.
But that was just because one said that, it doesn't mean necessarily it was the case, because they do cook dinner, and but some might use the microwave. But after that week, you get to know the professors, the coaches, the team, and everything else, and everything changed after you accept the cultural difference, and you accept how that people are very different from home, and you get used to it.
I think a lot of us can, relate to that first week when you touch down and everything is different. But that's like I keep on telling the clients that I have and that have gone over that's one part of what you wanted to do, right? You wanted to travel over and see a different part of the world, and you wanted to get to know a different culture. So you sort of have to embrace that week as well and just get used to it, because then after you get through that week, like you said, it was the 3 best years of your life, and that for many has been been a fact and been true. If you've gone through that first week, that's a bit tough, and then after that, it's a lot of fun and a lot of cool experiences along the way.
But you also learn how to cook.
Yeah.
Many people, that's part of growing up. You move away from home, and some might still do some of those microwave dinners. I did very few of those, not the best dinners in my opinion. So you do also grow up and learn. You go in food shop. If you live off campus, especially, where you're in an apartment, and then you have to make your own food. I mean, there's some, if you live on campus, there's also, you have like a small little kitchen in your apartment maybe, and then you could go and eat in the school cafeteria, and then it's super easy, right? You just show up. There's the all-you-can-eat buffet, very American style, and everything you can think of there, from salads to burgers and pizza. So and ice cream for dessert, of course, if you wanted to. As athletes, you have to be a bit careful with that, right? To get in, you talked about shape and getting into shape. That's quite important. But it's part of growing up. I mean, if you were studying away from home, you would also. I mean, I don't know how. Many people are probably used to being served dinner from your parents when you're still, maybe you've helped a little bit, but part of that, regardless if you're studying in the US or not, it's part of the learning experience.
Yeah.
Right.
But you talk about how important it is as a student athlete to be ready and to be, you of course you. The season for track and field, the competition, they start in January. It's indoors first, and then you eventually get outdoors in say March, and there's a lot of competitions right away. Typically, if you would have started in fall, which is like the most common term to start, that is in say in August, and then you do a semester, then you would do more like the basic training. But you were starting in January and you're straight into competition season. So maybe also the culture shock a little bit because you were not maybe ready for that yet, but you quite quickly found your feet and did well there. What did you really need to focus on in the beginning there?
Well, when I arrived, as I told you, I wasn't in the best shape, and so the practices was really hard. It was a lot of running, a lot of lifting, so I got injured really quickly because it was hard for me to adapt to the training when I was used to a certain kind of training back in Norway for many, many years. And so the good thing about being injured is that they have the athletic trainers that works as a physiotherapist, and they help you, and they're available every day. It's free. You can go there. You can spend like 3-5 hours there, and they will help you with anything. And so that helped a lot, being with the athletic trainers when you're injured. But it took actually maybe a year or two until I got used to the really hard training and, that type of training.
How does it differ from what you were used to back home? You're a sprinter, and you also did, so you do 60-meter indoor, you do 100-meter, you also do hurdles, 200-meter, and you also competed a little bit in pentathlon and heptathlon. So you did a lot of things, but you are a sprinter. You're fast.
Yes, well, try to be. So my favorite event is hurdles, 100-meter hurdles, 200-meter hurdles. In the beginning, I did the pen and the hep, which is 5 and 7 events, which is real fun. But there's one thing I like, and that's the 800 you have to do. That's the last event. It's too far.
Yeah, you can't sprint 800 meters.
No.
Yeah, that's a tough event. So after a while, I just wanted to focus on the hurdles and maybe some throw events because I also like that. And after maybe 1 to 2 years, we got used to, in Norway, we focus a lot on technique, and we do a lot of sprinting as well and lifting. But in the US, it was a lot of heavy lifting, and it's a lot of sprinting. You can sprint for 3, 4, 5 days a week, and that's really tough training. But that's the way they do it, and they lift really heavy. So that's the biggest difference from the workouts in Norway. And they have longer. We could work out for 3 to 4 hours without any break. Here, we might split it up and have 2 to 3 hours, and then sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening, depending the week and the coaches, of course. But yeah, it was a lot of heavy lifting and heavy sprinting.
But how did that improve you as an athlete?
So I think I got a lot stronger, and I got faster and faster. After the 2 years, I got faster and faster for every meet. And when you compete every single weekend, I think from January to March is maybe like 7, 8 weeks where you're competing every weekend, and it's a lot, and it's going to get really busy, but it's a lot of fun, and your body get used to competing every weekend. So we kind of say that we compete ourselves into shape. So we're always in shape where we had the biggest events, the track meets, which was CCIW, the College Conference of Illinois, Wisconsin. And that always happened indoor. It was in March, in the late March, and then it was in outdoor, late May. So we always like training really hard. And then that was the 2 big track meets at the end of the indoor season and then the outdoor season. And then after the season is done, your body is completely almost like broken, because it's been dealing with a lot of hard, tough training.
Yeah.
Not every day. We have some light days too, of course.
It's I guess also one of the reasons why they produce so many good athletes in the track arena there, that it is of course it's a regime that is challenging, but it does produce a lot of results for a lot of student athletes, and you have to really push yourself. This is of course each event that you do. I mean, you did several, but you really wanted to focus on the hurdles. But I guess it's different for the long distance runners. In the fall you have the cross country runners that are running 5K, 8K. You also have a big team that you were part of. You were just a small but important part since you were a hurdler. But all the other ones on there. How is the atmosphere, and how differently were you training with your teammates?
So the atmosphere was, so on track meets, the most fun on track meets is a long meet. We take the bus at like maybe 7 or 8, and then we go, and then we're not maybe back until like 6 at night, because you have to stay and watch everybody on the team compete as well. And since it's so many events in the track and field, you have throwers and jumpers and runners. It takes a lot of time, but it's so fun because we cheer for each other, and you have like a really team spirit. Even though it's an individual sport, you have really the team feeling. And also at the practices, you meet, you're really social, you have fun at practices. You have schools that I've read about and heard from other athletes that really serious. The practices, you're not allowed to laugh, but here, since maybe it's a Division 3 school, and we were coached by assistant coaches, which means they are a bit younger than the head coaches. So we had every kind of level of athletes that were on their team. But it was a great time. The team spirit means a lot.
I remember that from my former school. Whenever, because we had a brand new arena for the track and field athletes at our school, and I remember when we did some spring training and stuff like that with the soccer team. Obviously, that was next door to this new arena, and I remember there were so many people at these meets, and I thought to myself, like, there had to be like 1,000, some athletes, and then of course a lot of fans, but it makes sense now that you guys had to stay for 5-6 hours to support your teammates, and they do throwing, they run, they jump, they do everything. So I always thought to myself, like, how many people go to these events? But they're a ton. So there's a huge event, because at my soccer team we didn't have that many people watching us playing soccer.
So you run 14 seconds and 83 hundredths of a second, and then you're done, and then you support the shot putters and the javelin throwers and everybody else the rest of that day.
Yes, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Team spirit is a big thing.
It is big, but I mean, you're part of one. They talk a lot about being part of a big family in the US. When you're part of a team, you're instantly part of that, and it means a lot. And also for, can you explain like how the actual competitions do work? I mean, it's also about getting a team victory in these events. So it does matter that you do well in your event, and you can get points for your team, and then of course the javelin throwers, they should also try and score points with you sharing them on. But can you explain the competition style and how to win?
How to win? Well, my team wasn't the biggest one we were maybe a smaller team compared to the schools around Illinois or Wisconsin. So when we went to meet to score points, I think if you win, you have like 8 points. If you're second, it's 7 points, and then downwards. So we always try to score points, and the coaches always wanted to score the most points. So of course they asked you, oh, can you do this event? Can you do this? Can you do more? And I remember one weekend they asked me, that was my first year. They asked me if I could do the HEP outdoor. This was on the college conference. They asked me if I could do the HEP, which is 7 events, and then 2 relays, which was 4x1 and 4x400, and then the hurdles, which was prelims, and then you had the finals. So yeah, that would be 11, 12 events on 2 days, and that's a lot. So
I'm
that I would
tired
recommend.
just listening to you talking about that. But this is I'm no longer the athlete that I used to be. I probably could have gotten into the cross country because I was best without the ball. That was kind of my role in the team. So I would just run all day. But less waiting time for you then, Elise, when you were doing 12 events in 2 days.
Yeah,
the bright side. But did you score a lot of points for your team?
Yes, I did. My coaches were very happy because I scored a lot of points that weekend.
And how is that? I always wondered, because when, let's say you do a 200-meter hurdle, where you put like 100% energy into that, and then let's say an hour and a half later you have a 60-meter sprint or a 100-meter sprint. How is that when you put 100% energy into that 200-meter hurdle? How fast does your body get ready to be running for a 100-meter sprint an hour later? How is that?
Yeah, 1 hour is not recommended. I heard they recommend at least 3 or 4 hours until the body can recover and be at its best. So definitely, when you're not in a really good shape, 1 hour feels very, very short because it's all out sprint. And then, but I had to do that many times because I think my first 3 years, I did the 4x1, which is always the first event, and then 1 hour later it was the hurdles.
Yeah.
So I did that for almost 3 years, and then the last year I didn't do the 4x1 because I asked not to. Then I did a lot better.
Yeah.
So, and that was just a 1 hour break. So of course it's a lot, but you get used to it. Again, you get better shape, and your body gets used to it.
Yeah. So it is in front of me. I have sort of all your accolades throughout your years at college, and there's a lot more than I managed to get throughout my years. What would you say before? Obviously, you got invited to the NCAA Division 3 Championship, the Nationals in 2020, but before that, I see in 2017 and 2018 and 2019, you did it. Got a lot of awards. You broke a lot of personal records. What would you say were a standout for you before that national championship in 2020?
Well, when I came to the US, I didn't know what nationals was. I didn't know what a CCIW was. I learned really quickly that it's a very big event in the US, especially for Wisconsin and Illinois. So I think the CCIW, where I had some second and third in the hurdles throughout the years, was really big. There was one girl in my event, the 100 hurdles, that was impossible to beat. She was top in the nation, and that was always my goal, to beat her one day, which I did in one event. She might have had a bad start, but that was really cool. The CCIW it's I think it was 6 or 7 schools, and the level is really high. The atmosphere, it's difficult to explain it, but it's amazing. You have a lot of good athletes, and I think that maybe we're standing out the most, the CCIW. Maybe the second in the hurdles. I think that was in 2018, maybe.
You well, if I have it correctly here, there's a lot, but you have a 4th place in the pentathlon in 2017, a 2nd place in the heptathlon in 2017. Then you have a 3rd place in the 55 meters hurdles. Then you have a 2nd place on the 100 meters hurdle in 2018. 60 meters hurdles, you have a 3rd place. 60 meter hurdles, you have a 2nd place in 2019. And then 60 meter hurdles, 3rd place in 2020. So you did extremely well throughout all the years you were in the CCI.
A lot of points on the board for your beloved North Park. But I think you talk about the conference you were competing in, and obviously across the country there are loads of conferences, and this is more you were competing mostly in Illinois, where Chicago is based. Is located, and neighboring state Wisconsin, and there's a lot of schools there. But then, like in South Carolina, the conference that my school belonged to, we would compete in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, even Florida. So just it's more regional, but it means a lot to do well in your conference. That is, of course, your ticket to nationals if you do very well, but also for bragging rights. This is a big part of why school sports are so important for universities in the US, that there is that, if you can beat your local rivals, it means a lot for the athletes, of course, you talk about it, but also the community and everybody associated with the school. So it's different than what you're used to. And coming there and kind of representing something much bigger than yourself. Was that did you feel pressure, or was it more just nice to have that challenge and show them you can do it in a good way?
Well, in the beginning, I might have been feeling a bit more pressured to do well for the school, more for the school than myself. But then after a while, you learn that I want to do this for myself. It got less pressure after a while, but it's not the most competitive school, the most competitive NCAA division. So I feel like I was lucky to go to that school. You have so many coaches that support you, even though if you do really bad, they will still support you, and you have your teammates well. So yeah.
I guess in some of the biggest NCAA Division 1 schools where they are expecting you to go on and represent the university in, say, Olympics, that is, of course, the highest level there is, and probably comes with more pressure. And there are some international student athletes, of course, that are in those positions, but it's just so many different levels, and it's about finding what's right for you, the right fit. Of course, the sport's important, but yeah, academics is a big part of it. In North Park, you were able to finish your degree in 3 years. Normally, it takes 4, but you were able to come in with some college credits based on some of the high school work you had done. That shaved 25% off a degree, which that can be a positive for many. Others would like to do the full 4 years. But it was interesting that you could have finished in 3 years. You started in January. You could have finished in December 2019, but you've actually graduated in December, in May 2020. But so you did it in 3.5. But can you explain the little fun thing you did in order to push yourself athletically for North Park or for yourself as well?
Yeah. So in 2019, that was a big year for me, where I became faster and faster every week. And so in the end of the season, I really wanted to go to the nationals, and I was so close. I think I was maybe 200s or maybe 200s. I was number 23, I think, and then it's top 22 that goes. And that was very bittersweet. So that summer when I was home, my plan was to graduate in December 2019, but I thought to myself, I can go back and do it again. I just have to wait another semester to graduate in May. So that's when I decided in the summertime, okay, I need to try it again. So I was actually home for a semester and just training, working until January 2020, when I came back. And I was even in better shape, which was the plan. So I was really very happy about that.
That's because obviously the fall, there's no real competition. You start maybe the indoor late in the fall semester, but what you were aiming at was the outdoor nationals, which is that's what every hungry track athlete is trying to compete at. That's the best athletes from your division. There's obviously a separate nationals for Division 1, separate for Division 2, separate for Division 3. That's where you wanted to compete. And you did that is a big thing that you did there, that you kind of says something about your goals you had and how much it meant for you to actually you'd set a goal and you just desperately wanted to reach that and worked really hard to get there, and you managed in the end.
Yes, I did. So my plan was to make it to nationals outdoor, because I'm a better 100-meter hurdle runner than a 60-meter hurdle, and indoor it's 60-meter hurdle. So from January to March we were competing, and then in February there was a meet at the University of Chicago. The thing was that year the level was a lot higher than last year, so everybody was running faster for some reason. And then you had my teammate Jose. He was from Spain, and he also did hurdles and the heck indoor. And we started together at North Park. So we were also supposed to graduate together. And at the meet at University of Chicago, I run 8.92, and that was really, really fun. So I knew that after I run that I didn't make it to the nationals, because the time was maybe like 9 or 9 blank to make it, but then everyone was running faster, and we still had a couple of more weeks, but we knew, like my coaches and my teammates knew that time that's going to make it to nationals. So I was super excited. I finally reached my goal after 2-3 years, and later Hussein, my teammate, also he made it. So that was really fun that two of the people at Vikings were competing for the Vikings made it to nationals, which was huge for us. And that's my favorite moment when I accomplished it, because nothing felt better when you have been working so hard for it to make it. And especially when I was home for half a year just training for that.
That's a lot of emotion coming out for reaching a goal. And this was in March 2020, and we all know what happened in March 2020. Something called COVID all of a sudden is here. So it probably didn't turn out exactly. You reached your goal, but to compete there, I mean, it was cancelled, and unfortunately couldn't show everybody in the nation what you could do at that meet, because there was no meet in the end.
Yes.
But still, the accomplishment was there. And not just that. I mean, here we're talking All-American honors based on your academic accomplishments as well, or academic All-American. I mean, these are awards that are, the highest you can achieve in your division, and you got there after a fantastic progression of a college career. Since you started, you just up and up. So if must have felt good to finish on that high note, not with meets being cancelled because of COVID, but it's a testament that you did extremely well progressed.
Yes, it did. So I was also working really hard at school as well, because I had high ambitions, and I wanted really good grades. So I worked extra hard, maybe the 2 last years of the college degree, and also on the track side. Because in the beginning, when I started college, it was all like, wow, everything is in English. You have to learn everything they do. They have papers, you have presentations, you have exams, you have everything. Every week it's something like that, and it's a lot to get used to. But eventually you get used to it, and it's a lot of learning, and I'm a big believer of you never stop learning. So I took the opportunity, and I'm really happy about it.
They're very good at recognizing achievements. I mean, both in the classroom and here in the stadium for track athletes. Is that something you find like a good thing, or is it more that we're a bit more we're not so used to that maybe in Europe or Scandinavia or England or wherever you're from?
I don't know. Yeah, I learned a lot about bragging, you can say, and they do have a lot of words and a lot of big words to everything, but I kind of like it because it looks good on your resume, and it might get too much sometimes, because you're from a Nordic country. You have janteloven, and you're not supposed to think that you're better than anyone else, but eventually you realize that it's okay to brag a little bit.
Or let others do the bragging for you.
Yeah, maybe that.
But we haven't really spoken much about your degree and the academics. But what did you study in the end?
My major was business management. So I took a Bachelor of Science degree. Mm-hmm.
How you obviously went to Australia, you did your gap year and started seeing how the world works outside where you're from, which is a big step. But then how had your high school and maybe your English skills, how prepared were you for studying at an American university? You said it took a bit of time.
Yeah, well, yes. So there's a big difference between speaking English as I do now, and come to school and then you have all these terms and words in English, like economic wise for my major, and it's a lot to take in, but you just have to repeat it, and it can be overwhelming in the beginning. But I think for me, communicating on English with my teammates and the professors that one more easy or better than expected to be, because the professors are so welcoming, and I remember my first week in the Bible study, I was very worried about that class, because my English wasn't the best either, and I talked to the professor and I said, hey, so I really don't know much about the Bible, and can you help me with any like study tip? And he was just smiling. He said, yeah, of course I'm going to help you. We can go to the coffee shop and we can grab a coffee and we can talk, and that would never happen in Norway. And they're just very helpful, and you learn a lot doing a lot of paper and having a lot of exams, how they want you to do it.
It's a bit more structured maybe with that you don't have to do everything for one big exam at the end and that's your grade, which in other countries might be the case, but that you gradually have to just do work and get results, and then it all ends up with being one grade at the end. Probably easier that way. A bit more high school style how to study, which I also enjoy that a lot, because you don't have to procrastinate and do everything right at the end. But of course, you had the North Park is a private school. It's also affiliated with and this is why you did the Bible study, that it's affiliated to a Christian church. It's obviously it works very differently from school to school, but it's also probably to get a better worldview, to actually learn a little bit more about the Bible or the Quran or whatever the religion might be. It actually is quite helpful. And I mean, I know, Truls, you've actually read the Bible, not in a class. You just decided, yeah, I want to read that to understand.
And also to better, to not to really if you're in a discussion about religion or the Christianity or the Bible, I wanted to be I wanted to understand it. It's tough to understand the Bible reading it once, but I feel like it was a little bit of an eye opener for me to actually read the Bible and to better understand it. I'm not religious at all, but I just wanted to do it because I wanted to see what all the hype has been about for the last 2,000 years. So I wanted to do that.
Yes.
But yeah, it is different from what we're used to in Norway, wouldn't you say, Elise?
Yeah, very different. And we had a gospel as well, and I went to the gospel several times, and I get very emotional when I go into a gospel, because there's something about the atmosphere there as well, and they do a lot of singing. It's not like going to the church in Norway. So they talk and they give a speech, and they give like very, very life-changing speeches, and they sing, and it's just I think it was amazing.
Yeah, it is different. But so obviously you've been a very dedicated student athlete throughout your years at North Park. There's a reason why you became an All-American athlete and an All-American academic. But you lived in the Windy City, Chicago, which is the third biggest city in the U.S. A really well-known city. I've been there once. I love the city. Did you get a chance to explore what Chicago really has to offer during your time at college?
Yes, of course I did. So Chicago can get really cold in the winter time, and very windy, of course. In the summertime, it can get really warm as well. So I remember one day it was like breaking records. It was -30, and then the wind got it into -50. It was very intense. We weren't allowed to go outside. But then we had Norwegians at the school that were like taking a bath and taking photos and then posted on social media because we are used to this weather. But it's a really windy city and can get really cold in the wintertime. But the summer starts, or like spring starts in early March. So it's amazing weather until October, maybe even November. I had a lot of friends visiting me and family. So I always have to do the sightseeing stuff and the fun stuff in the city every year I had visits. So you have all the skyscrapers, and then you have the river. We have the beach that we go to in summertime. It's a lot of events going on all the time. It's so many restaurants, so many good restaurants. And then you have, you have football, you have basketball games, and like a full stadium. You have this what do you call aquarium. You basically have everything. Everyone who's living in a city in Chicago, they say it's the best city in the world, and I understand why they say that.
Yeah, many compare it to New York with the range of things you can do there. It's like a different version of New York, and the rivers going through. You have fantastic Lake Michigan there, and also why it's so windy. It's quite flat. It's when you go up in like Sears Tower, which is like it used to be the tallest building in the world, and then you see fantastic views. The rooftop bar there, just unbelievable. But then you just understand like how big this city really is when you just look, and it's completely flat all around it, and completely mind-blowing, I think, to because there's so many skyscrapers there, and also I think they filmed, with all these tunnels they filmed the Batman movies. I think they did in Chicago. So it's a very interesting place to explore. You had a lot of time to, because you talk about the season, and every weekend you had meets from January till May. Was it more in the fall that you had spare time to do stuff in the city?
Yes, so in the fall I did a lot of traveling when I could, but also you have Thanksgiving break, and then you have Easter break, you have Christmas break, you have many holidays. So, but mostly in the fall, I did a lot of traveling. So I had friends that were also studying in Hawaii and in LA, in North Carolina, New York, and so we love traveling, Norwegians. So I jump on the airplane and I visit them, and you explore different kind of states and different kind of cities. So that's what I love the most about having, Easter, Thanksgiving break. You can go away for a bit, but also traveling in Chicago. It's a really big city, and it's a lot to see there as well.
That's something I always sort of advise about, is to explore if you have the opportunity to explore the U.S. Because, I was in the New England area. You obviously were in Chicago. Kim were down in the South. It's almost like 3 different countries within one country. When you're going to different states, going to different areas, it's very, very different. And it's always something I advise people to do if you have the time to explore different parts of the U.S. Because, traveling from Chicago to North Carolina, it's 2 very different places to live.
Yes, it is. It's only 2 hours flight, but it's like another country.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite place after having seen so much of the U.S., Elise?
That is easy. That's Hawaii, Honolulu. That was my favorite
Aloha.
vacation.
That's a place I've never been. Always wanted to
Yeah,
explore.
I've been out there.
Yeah, of
Nice,
course.
nice beaches, beautiful. So you've explored this big country, the United States. You obviously didn't get the right ending to this because of COVID with your graduation and everything being disrupted with that. But nonetheless, you got your fantastic bachelor's degree. You've done great. But now it was time to head back home and continue your journey here. How was the change to coming home? I mean, disregard COVID and everything, but just being not being in the US anymore. Was it a big change for you?
Well, when I got back, I was supposed to have 2 more months, and I was supposed to have like an internship, and then you have all the track events and all that. So I was very devastated coming back because I missed on the 2 most important months from my perspective. But when I got back, also there was other things that was more importantly. But I missed it. It took only a couple of days, and then I missed the US because you're in your own bubble, and you have your friends, and they become your family. So when you get back and you didn't get the chance to say goodbye, it was really hard, and it took me a lot of time until I could eventually start going back to normal life again. But I still had online, so I had two more months chatting with my classmates and the professors online.
Was it you talk about your family kind of away from home? Many people that we've spoken to, they refer to your friends and the other student athletes, pretty much the school environment as that. Your family away from home. But was it just Americans at the school? More international feel? How was the network of friends that you got?
There were people from all around the world. So we had a lot of Swedish people, of course. We had English people, Spain, from Germany, from Japan. It was literally everything. It was a very international school, but at the same time, maybe 80% were Americans. And they were also from many different states. So I did get a lot of American friends. But our track team was half international and then half Americans. But I also did a lot of international friends. So my network is from all around the world.
And when we're allowed to travel again, you have a lot of places to visit because of that, right?
Yes, I do.
I think we're all longing for just to meet up with people that we've studied with, or go back to the US and visit whenever that is possible. So that's great, and that's one of the. But those we'll get through that, and then the relationships last. And of course, you won't be able to see your good friends that often, but when you do get to meet them, it's fantastic. Weddings and all those events where a lot of people end up meeting in different parts of the world. One of my favorite things about having such an experience as an international student athlete. But you come back and you weren't done studying yet. You wanted to add some more. You talked about learning. You should never stop learning. And now you're learning more at one of Norway's best schools, doing your master's in business. It's called, for siviløkonomi, or siviløkonom in Norwegian. That's what you're doing now. And how's your everyday life as a student currently?
Yeah. So it's still busy. Still doing track. So. Student life here is a lot different, and how you always have the exam in the end of the semester, but still I have developed the structure, the routine to study all of the semester, what I learned in America at Norpark. So it's basically the same as before, except that we're not at the moment not traveling and competing a lot in track, naturally because of COVID. But in school-wise, we don't have the presentations, the papers. It's only the exam to focus on, which is also a good thing. But to be honest, I like more having exams throughout the semester, because then they can follow up how you're doing. But getting different experience and gaining new perspective is what I'm doing now. It's NTNU.
Yeah, and it's important to see that you can use a bachelor's that you got and use that at good schools back here, and to continue, because a lot of our students, they do end up studying more. They're not done with after bachelor's. Of course, you can only compete as a student athlete for a number of years, so you can't do that for your full degrees in a master's and stuff. But it's still. I think the feedback we get from students that are continuing to study is that they're set up in a very good way for more learning with their degrees from the US, and that some get degrees from world-renowned huge schools, and others. North Park is it's a good school, but it's not like one that is internationally ranked. It's a much smaller private school, so it's very different. It's not on the map in the same way as say an Ivy League school like Princeton or Harvard or something like that. But it's you've still you're on a great path to doing something very good with your business degrees now.
Yes, I was really happy to get accepted here at NTNU, because when I got back, it was really hard getting a job, and so I wanted to do a master's degree. So yeah, I was really happy when I realized I can still have 2 more years of studying.
And you say you compete in track still. Of course, it's been very disruptive now with with sports, and you're more representing a club, and it's not a school thing anymore. Do you manage to keep up in the same way you would as if you were part of a North Park track team?
So I train with a club / team here, and it's a lot different from what I'm used to. But I really enjoy training with a group again, because if I were able, I couldn't be able to work out alone again with having no coach. And I have a great coach now, and we try to compete as much as we can do now, as COVID allows us to. And I think eventually this season, I hope summertime, we will be able to. And we'll see how fast I can get.
Yeah, not how far, but how fast, exactly. But so some of the things that you've learned in the US, have you brought that back into your group right now that is helping them?
Well, it's for track-wise, for the training-wise, I would say some new exercises and some new perspective. But the coaches is the one who decide what we're going to do in our program. Well, of course, we're allowed to have some ideas and all that. But I think bringing back some more spirit, the spirit for a club here in Norway is not the same in the US, because you have a really team spirit. And well, I hope so. I hope to think so, that I bring some spirit into the team that I have learned.
Yeah. Need more cheerleaders and the big groups where they really cheer for the teams. I think that's they're really good at making these events just awesome. In the States, we might have something to learn from there.
Yeah, definitely.
But to wrap things up, Elise, it's been really great to talk with you. To the listeners here, your advice about the US journey. What are the important things for them to consider and think about?
Yeah, so I would say, first of all, as Nike says, just do it. because that's what I did. And just because you have a bad week doesn't mean you will have a bad college experience. It's gonna get really busy, so plan ahead and take advantage of the opportunities, because they will be right in front of you and you have to take them. And so you have to accept cultural differences. And that's going to make you the college life a lot easier, I would say. And just because this is the way my school that I went to were doing things doesn't mean schools in Georgia or New York, they might operate in a different way, but you can also transfer. You can try different schools if it's not the right fit for you.
You're not locked into the one you end up going to. I think majority will probably like it there, but that's of course you don't probably know until you've actually been there and experienced it and get into things. That's everything can look great on paper, but you actually have to go there and be there and soak it up and be open-minded, because I think for all internationals coming, it is a big change in the beginning, and it's how quickly you will adapt to your new family away from home. But they're opening their arms wide open for you in the US, and they want to make you to be a success there, which is a good thing. Isn't that right, Truls?
Yep, 100%. Couldn't say it better.
Great. On that note, Elise, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think it's great to get your insight and inspire others, and you've done great so far, and we're looking forward to following your journey as it continues, both in track but also in business world.
And thank you again for having me. I had a blast.
Great.
Fun.